Thank you, Ann and Diane. I'd like to say I haven't been that flexible since I was 4 years old. And we look forward to your return with Marcy and Bonnie later. I hope the next few minutes will not continue the banana theme that you won't leave throwing up after the service. I'm about to read a passage which is well known to all of you, and we recently studied Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. But our theme today is going to be on transitions, which have three parts, and I think that you will see those three parts even before we discuss them in the garden, as Jesus makes this great and swift transition in his life. You all have been through many transitions, and we all have many to go. But when you have transitions, you have the end of something usually that you really loved in life, a part of your life you enjoy. And then when you lose that, you kind of fall on your knees not knowing where the next part of your life will take you. And you're kind of in a wilderness. And then if you hang in there, a new part of your life will appear. And I think you'll see this in the very short time span in Gethsemane. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go." Well, there are two types of transitions that you have gone through and continue to go through. One type is easier. They're on-time transitions. They're transitions and changes in our life that we expect. Graduation from high school, graduation from college, getting married, having children, retirement. They are events in our lives that totally change the way we understand ourselves. But these are welcome. But you also have experienced off-time events. And these are events that we did not want to come into our lives. These are events that change us forever. It could be a divorce. It could be a broken relationship, the loss of a job, and most painfully, the early off-time death of someone we love. Well, there are three stages in transitions that you've gone through. And one is ending something that we love. If any of you, and I imagine many of you, have experienced broken relationships, broken love relationships, and you know that when you lose that part of your life that you hold so dear, and you had so much faith in, and it had so much promise, that when you lose that, you want to go back. You want to go backwards and grab it again. You may recall going to college. Many of you have sent high school students to college. You know, we read now that the summer before kids leave to college, sometimes they misbehave horribly, worse than ever before in their lives, and we believe now that he's a favor to us. It makes it easier for us to say goodbye and easier for them to leave. But when they leave, they're so sure that college is going to be paradise, that they're going to a new life they'll love. But when they get there, it's kind of hard to give up that old life where they were a superstar in the high school, and you'll see them come back home regularly that first few months, and they'll go to the high school games at Heritage and class. And then around December, most of them, after they spent Christmas vacation with us, parents, can't wait to leave again. And they completed their transition. But we read from USA Today, so how could it be wrong? We read that 60% of all college freshmen think of transferring. And they don't think of transferring to a college that is better, or has a different major. They think of transferring to a college closer to home. Transitions are so difficult to make. And in the story of Jesus in Gethsemane, what does Jesus say in his first prayer? If it be possible, take this cup from me. He apparently loved his time on earth, his friends on earth, his mother, his brothers, his sisters. It was hard to let go. The next part of the transition we call the desert. You've been there, I imagine. The desert is after you've lost that part of your life that you so loved and treasured. You just don't know where to go. This is not a time in our lives we're very productive, we're not very creative. It can be a brief time, like in the story of Gethsemane. It can last for years. And it can be a time where we hope and pray that a new dream will come our way, a new way of living, and a new way of understanding ourselves. The word 40 in the Bible is a very important word. You'll see it frequently. It usually just means a long time. Moses rose from the scripture we read to lead the Israelites to the new land, the promised land. They wandered for 40 years. And Jesus wandered for 40 days in the wilderness. We have all kinds of pictures of transitions from the Bible. Jonah swallowed by the whale, and in that transition time, he changed his life. You saw this also with Jesus. He first started out, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. But you notice that the second request was, if I must drink it, let your will be done. And all 3 times he's on his knees praying, and in one of the Gospels, praying so hard, blood dripped from his forehead. It is so hard in the transition. Well, I'm going to read you one of the most painful poems that I know. And it is about a transition that could not be made. It's about 2 parents in the desert. You know this point well. Raise your hand if you're a parent. You'll hear this with the same pain that I do every time I read it. And this is Little Boy Blue by Eugene Fields. And as you know, in the middle of the night, an angel song comes, which means, of course, that Little Boy Blue died. And the parents, in a way each of us would understand, just cannot get out of the desert. They keep everything exactly the way it was when Little Boy Blue was with them. The little toy dog is covered with dust, but sturdy and staunch he stands. And the little toy soldier is red with rust, and his musket molds in his hands. Time was when the little toy dog was new, and the soldier was passing fair. And that was the time when our little boy Blue kissed them and put them there. Now don't you go till I come, he said, and don't you make any noise. So toddling off to his trundle bed, he dreamt of pretty toys. And as he was dreaming, an angel song awakened our little boy Blue. Well, the years are many, the years are long, but the little boy friends are true. Ah, faithful to little boy blue they stand, each in the same old place, awaiting the touch of a little hand, the smile of a little face. And they wonder, as waiting these long years through in the dust of that little chair, what has become of our little boy blue since he kissed them and put them there. The time in the desert is very difficult. It's very hard. There's not one of us who is a parent who would throw a stone at these parents, could not get to the other side. Fortunately, counseling in some cases like this, people actually, counselors after several years will actually have people sell their houses and move so that they can get a new start, a new movement toward the future. Well, the last part of the transition is a movement to a new part of your life. And you've all done this. And you know that you're a different person. You're a different person when you start this new part of your life. You see life differently. You think differently than you did just a few years ago. And when you heard the story of Gethsemane, you heard Jesus say, "Rise, let us go." He was moving on to the new part of his life, so greatly different from the old part. Well, I'm going to share two transitions in my life. And I want to say before I start that you will wonder about this first one. It's about my first girlfriend. And I want you to know this is Patty approved. She knows it's coming. She said it's fine. No problem. Well, when I was a high school senior, I fell in love. You know, that first love. And we call it, in psychology now, cocaine brain. And what happens, really, the scientific evidence shows this. The first 2 years after someone falls in love at age 16 or at age 45 or at age 50, the first 2 years, if you look at a brain scan of a person in love's brain and compare it to someone's on cocaine, you can't tell the difference. And this is why. This is why when young people fall in love and you say anything negative about the person they're dating, they can't see it because they're cocaine blind. And they think that their love is perfect and will last forever, and it's different than your love, which is imperfect, and the whole world's love, which is imperfect. They're the future of the world, and boy, I had the cocaine brain. And her name was Molly, and we hung out together all the time, and we were just such a good couple. I was a captain of the state high school tennis team and champions in North Carolina, and she was kind of Miss Cheerleader, popular person. And on the very last page of our senior graduation book, there's a picture of Molly and me looking into a fire and looking into the future. And then she went to college at Queens in North Carolina, and I went to Wake Forest, and I still had the cocaine brain. And we saw each other off and on that year, as you do when you're separated in college. And I was fairly sure that this was the person I'd marry, and we'd be like the national average. We'd have 2.3 children, buy a van, buy a house at the beach, and that'd be the future of my life. Her parents were fairly wise. I know this is unbelievable to you, but they didn't really like me. And they do what all smart parents do, don't like the person their kid's dating. They gave her a whole summer away in Maine, where I couldn't see her, she couldn't see me. And this was before Twitter and twitting and whatever it all is. And you know, we just did this whole thing of writing letters. You might remember that, some of you. And only a few that would go back in the summer, and I was aware of when she'd be back at Queens, and I was back at Wake Forest. And the first Saturday morning that she was back, I called her, and her new roommate, whom I'd never met and didn't know, he answered the phone, and I said, "Hi, is Molly there?" And she said, "Oh, she's not here. She just left for the park with her new boyfriend from Philadelphia." want to go back. I'm sure I wrote her, I called her, I tried to bring back that part of my life. But in that one moment, the cocaine ran out. And I stayed in the desert, the relationship desert, for years. The relationship desert. You know, wondering whether you could trust another person, trying to meet just the right person. And then when I'm 23 years old, I'm in Walkertown, North Carolina, Patty, where are you, Patty? Raise your hand. Patty walks down the stairs, and I fell madly in love. Madly in love. And I feel that same way today. It's when your spouse walks into a room unexpectedly when you're visiting, and how do you react? Does your heart still jump and you smile? You're glad to see them, or you ignore them? You have to deal with them during this busy moment. If I had not gone through the desert, I would have never seen Patty's face. I would have never seen Patrick, or Emily, or Dustin. I'd have never seen all the things they did in high school and in college. I would have never met their spouses. And I would have never been there when they went through their highs and their lows, because as all of you parents know, parenting never ends, doesn't it? It's just one thing after the other. But it is so good to have the miracle of failing and going through the garden to get to the other side. The next story is another time I hit bottom. So I was in college, relationships going nowhere, so I decided, well, maybe I better find out what I want to do with the rest of my life. Being a male, I was fairly irrational, so I decided what I wanted to do was to be a professional tennis player. I was going to play at Wimbledon. Then when I got really old and couldn't play anymore, you know, when I was about 25, I would become a college coach, maybe at Wake, maybe at another ACC school. That's what I was going to do in life. I was pretty sure it would happen. I was captain of the Wake Forest tennis team. I've been Mr. Tennis for 2 summers in North Carolina. Why not? I'll tell you why not. The Atlantic Coast Conference tournament, my end of my junior year, was in Clemson. And I drew a freshman I've never heard of, but you know, when you're in college, that difference of 2 years is an eternity. So I was just prepared to absolutely destroy him. And I went out on the court, and I had never, ever been beaten so badly in my life. And the problem was, I was playing really well. And about the second set, the bottom fell out. And I remember thinking, if I can't beat a freshman from Clemson, how am I ever going to play at Wimbledon? And my dreams were broken. Well, I happen to have a coach, Coach Jim Layton, who is in the NCAA Hall of Fame, and great man. He had seen my dreams, he knew of my dreams, and he knew of my ability. But he didn't want to tell me. He wanted me to find out for myself what my future was. And he was a great mentor. Wake Forest team came down in 3 cars. He sent the entire team back in 2. And then he and I came back at the 3rd. I don't think I said a word for 60 miles, which is fairly amazing. But I was stunned. And then Coach Layton broke the silence and just said these words, the most painful words anyone who has ever loved me told me. He said, "Ken, you're a good student, aren't you?" You got it, and I got it. My skill set was not in sports. Graduate school, graduate school, graduate school. So my whole life changed. I hit bottom. I went to graduate school, which was just the process of figuring out what I wanted to do. And I think about how hitting bottom there, how much it has meant to my life. I would have never been in Lynchburg, Virginia. I would have never walked through the doors back there. And I walked through these doors and escaped very quickly every Sunday. But I would have never met some people. I would have never heard Nathan Brooks pray. You know, I'm not real good at focusing during prayers. I never listen more than his. You ever just listen to the way he creates prayers? Wow, he's good. I would have never met some legends in Lynchburg. I would have never met Herb Moore. Herb Moore, who so totally changed this city, alone and with his friend Cosby, not only creating institutions to help people, but created an attitude in this city that will persist, I hope, forever. I would not have met Pete Warren, who brought me here. Pete Warren, who is a professor at Lynchburg College. When I got here, we retired 3 times. We kept bringing him back. He's a dean, he's this. Then when he finally retired and didn't have anything to do, you know, he became mayor. And now Pete's on every board you can imagine. And he is, maybe most importantly, the answer to this question. What does severe, untreated hyperactive activity look like when it's all focused on the good? And that's Pete. If you know Pete, you just can't keep up with him. Can't keep up with him. I've never met Dr. Jim Wright, who just won a humanitarian award in this city for the constant goodness of him. I've never seen new leaders emerge like Scott Baker, Jennifer Potes, and Mike Walker and Mary Normile. I wouldn't have seen them rise up. And the music here. I would have never heard Miranda Cook sing a solo, or Mike Campbell, or Gwen Wheeler, or Nell Bodine. Can you imagine? I would not have heard the music of Cindy Ramsey, Rita Hatcherings, the Cindy. You know, sometimes when you do that thing after communion and you get going into New Orleans, Patty's my favorite place, I just want to stand up and scream. It's so wonderful. I would have never seen it. I would have never met some characters that are in this church. I know she's here. I saw her. Libby Gatsby, raise your hand. So Patty and I go to a play a couple of years ago. And we leave. And I say, wow, that actress was great. And she says, she goes to our church. I said, no, she doesn't. Yes, she does. She goes to our church. We're sitting back there. She says, there she is. I said, no, she's not. That's not her. So we go to another play. I come back, and of course I'm like a 6-year-old. Someone puts on a hat, I don't know they're the same person. So we go to another play, and I say, wow, that actress is fantastic. She says, she goes to our church. I said, no, she's not. Love another person, and how to care for them when the bottle seems to drop out. I would have never seen the gentle caring of a beloved Lynchburg College figure, Don Floyd, who just gently supports all of us at the college day after day. I've never learned of the steadfastness of Lorraine Flint, the way she stays like a rock and supports me. But I can't end without saying that Patty and I just so much have loved 4 people in this church that we sit behind every week when we can. We call them the ladies. And if there's ever a week where we're not quite sure we're up for going to church, one of us will say, we've got to see the ladies. And we go, and we see them. Mary Sue Huntley, where are you? I know you're out there. I saw you somewhere. There? Yeah, there she is. Well, Mary Sue, as you know, is Patty's mother's 93, and Mary Sue, I remember this fall, Patty's mother was having a hard time. Patty's mother, I should say, is only 93. And Mary Sue looked at me and said, when she gets as old as I am, she'll understand these things. So we sit behind Mary Sue and Dorothy Watkins, Shirley Paxton, and all of us still miss Julia Jones. You know, we've all got a lot of transitions left. all of us. I hope a lot of transitions. And there are a lot of times we're going to lose a part of our lives, life that we really love, we really care for. And we're going to wander through that desert, just as Jesus did. It's a tough desert. It's a lot of time. We don't know where it will end. But if you stick there and you have courage, you will see a road out. And that road will be a new road for you, one that you have never traveled. It will be different. You will be different once you take it. And it will take a lot of courage to take. So I want to read with my favorite poem, and I know probably many of yours. It's about the two roads that diverge and the courage that it takes. You know this poem by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing our way leads on to way, I doubted I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere, ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. That has made all the difference. In your deserts, have courage to stay as long as you need. Look for the road less traveled. Take it out of the desert. It will make all